Hi Adarsh, how are you?
Hello, Rishit. I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm fine as well. Maybe we can start with a little bit introduction about yourself, about your academic or professional background.
Sure. It's an interesting story because I come from a medical background. I've completed my undergrad in physical therapy. It was a 4.5 years of degree. But as soon as I got into undergrad in 2019, we got struck with COVID. We had a lot of time at our hands, and I started experimenting with content creation, reaching out to people, working with startups. I found a couple of very good startups that were people my age running companies based out of Delhi and Bangalore. And I got to contribute there. I was also keeping up with my academics in general. I, was at the top of my class most of the times, and even went on to publish 5 medical reference books in my final year. So that hasn't never been a problem. But I started indulging more and more since the second year of my undergrad into business and startup culture here in India, and that taught me quite a lot about businesses. And I found that I love business and management in general much more than biological sciences for that matter. And biology and physical therapy, we looked at patients. I might have treated around 1,000 patients over the 6 months of mandatory internship in my hospital. But that's very similar to managing businesses, identifying pain points and strategizing and consulting them. So that really intrigued me. I decided before even my undergrad was finished that my next best step should be pursuing a master's degree in management. And I wasn't looking for broad opportunities at the very beginning. I prepared for MBA entrance exams here in India, scored pretty decently, had some really good calls with scholarship options, but later decided that if we are gonna do this, this is a one-time thing. The masters in management is not gonna be twice. So maybe I should aim for the stars, and I decided to, focus my energy on study abroad and took up the GMAT and then scored decently there and got in touch with Sahil, and that's how things started rolling.
Okay, a very strong profile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which school did you receive offers from?
All right. So I had a couple of them in my focus area. Initially, I was, focusing on US schools as well before, the stuff with visas. But I diverted my focus especially to European business schools, and ESADE was on my radar, and amongst other ones like HEC, INSEAD, and stuff like that. But I received an offer from ESADE for their MIM flagship program, and I'm happy to be here.
Okay, congratulations for that.
Thanks.
Was ESADE your dream school?
You could say that, yeah. I mean, I wanted to be in a top 10 global school at any point. Not that rankings matter in that sense, but there's this, legacy angle to it. And ISADE is currently ranked seventh in FTMBA, so that helps.
Ah, yeah, actually. How did
Yeah.
you feel when you opened the offer letter?
Oh, it was very delightful. I think I was probably the very first ones to even get an interview call from ISADE. Since my name has double A's, I think I filled out the form at 5:30 p.m. I think the deadline was 6 p.m. or something like that. And then very next day at 10 a.m., I received an interview call. I had to, check in with Sahil to see if it's a pre-screening interview round or something like that. But no, it was the final deal. I think I was the first ones to receive it this season in round one.
My God, it must be surprising.
Yeah, it was surprising. And then the interview was very smooth with the associate director at ISADE, and she was really, really sweet. We had a very long discussion for an hour, I think. And she was really interested to know about my background and what I bring to the table. And it was very enjoyable, to be honest. After the interview, it was pretty clear that I would be receiving the offer.
Already, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Why did you choose this school or program over others?
More or less, it has to do with the timeline. I've seen that MIM degrees in general and MBAs in general are a year or so, but in the Europe, majorly in Paris and France, INSEAD and HEC offer 14, 16, 18 months of MIM programs. And that's fair for early career professionals. But since I already have a head start, I've worked with a couple of firms before the startup, experience I was talking about, a couple of manufacturing experience here in Maharashtra and stuff like that. So I already had a head start, and I was looking for a program that was more or less within a year of time frame, and that was also really credible. I had a word with a lot of people from ESADE and Sahil as well because he knows about the market and the colleges better than anyone else. But after reassessing my options, I thought ESADE was a really good choice for me. And since I got extended the offer letter pretty soon, I confirmed without hesitation.
That's great. Okay, so like what challenges did you face during the application process?
The major challenge was to navigate the uncertainty in the stories that you present, right? And I think that's where Sahil has, the expertise that he has developed. And it was really delightful working with him. The main friction point in any application process, in my opinion, and Harshita, you can correct me, is mainly finding your story and your version to present to business schools. Because ultimately, it's about how you sell yourself professionally so and to word that, to introspect deeply, ask the right questions. I think a helping or guiding hand always helps.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so like how did Edbit Scholar help you overcome these challenges?
Surely. I got in touch with Sahil through a very unusual route for that matter. I had known about him. I was creating this, community of MIM aspirants from Reddit because I was like, okay, let's make a community, let's help each other. And Sahil was part of that community too. He was helping out every single day about queries and stuff like that. And as soon as I was done with my GMAT and I got to know once I connected with Sahil on such a, webinar that we were conducting for my community and our community in general, we got to know more about each other and what it does, and I knew it right then and there that admit scholar should be the go-to company or firm, if you want to call it, that I seek my help from, not because of what they do or how good they do it, but because of the people running it. I believe a lot in the people running it, and Sahil has been super helpful. I aimed for round one. I was preparing well in advance for the GMAT. I had taken it once already to establish the baseline. And the second one, I scored pretty decently, and I got in touch with Sahil right away once my GMAT was done. I got back to my room an hour or so later, my GMAT. I gave him a call and, started assessing our options.
That's great. It's
Yeah.
like very urgently this way.
It
That
is, it is. And we were
yeah,
pretty ahead in the time because round one is pretty ahead in the curve. And ISADE especially does 8 rounds. I wasn't aware of this. I was thinking that they do 4 or 5 rounds or something like that, like all the other colleges. But we had plenty of time to prepare.
okay, that's great. So like adding on to this question only, like how would you describe your experience working with Sahil sir, our founder?
I think Sahil has been very good listener in general. He advises flawlessly. He knows the ins and outs about the industry. He's been here for so long, more than or almost 100 admits now, which is a really big milestone for him. I congratulated just some time ago to him personally. And Sahil in general has a very deep understanding of how naturalistic all of this should feel like and how to bring your best self forward once you're presenting yourself, not only in the applications, but also the interview with business schools. I remember we conducted a lot of mock interviews, me and Sahil one on one, for the interviews as well. And those were super helpful because ultimately you need someone who you can be yourself in front of. You gotta acknowledge your flaws, your weaknesses. You gotta mention them in your application, work on them together, and present a package that makes it compelling for the business school to choose you over other candidates. And Sahil does know how to do that very well.
That's great. Okay, so like were
Yeah.
you hesitant and did you had a belief that you would get into these top B schools?
Um, to be very honest, I always believe in perpetual optimism, and I've always deployed a feeling that nothing is out of reach for me, and I keep trying every single day. And to find a same bandwidth in someone who's helping you with the admissions like Sahil and the other founders, even though I did not have a lot of time with the other founders to interact, Sahil was majorly my go-to person. But I'm sure everybody at Admit Call understands this really well, and yeah, it was a very good experience. I think to articulate it in such a short manner would be challenging for me.
Actually. So like how would
Yeah.
you describe your experience with the first consultation call that you had with Sahil sir only?
I'd never looked at it like a consultation call, to be honest. If you want to call that, sure. But it never feels like a consultation program or like a company helping you or, someone that has a motto of getting you in a college and nothing like that. Sahil and other founders are like friends, and you need a good friend who knows about the industry to help you and guide from you, and take guidance in general. Then I think our first ever consultation call was pretty straightforward. He asked me about my GMAT score, what schools I had in mind, and said, "Okay, let's do that." No back and forth. We started prepping right away. We had a couple of brainstorming sessions after that to, deeply self introspect where I stand and what are the things I need to package in a good way with Sahil to present to the universities. And I think we hit it off right after that. I remember it correctly. After my GMAT, I had around a week or 10 days, if I'm not wrong, or maybe a couple of weeks to round one deadlines. And it was short. I mean, I say that we had plenty of time to work around in terms of where we were entering in round one. But the deadlines of round one and me getting in touch with Sahil weren't really a lot. It was a narrow time frame, and we did really well in those time frames. I think we used to connect almost alternate days or as much as we could, and work our way through it. It's a lot of work, to be honest. If you ever try to apply, Harshita, I think I would deploy discipline.
Sure. Actually, we
Yeah.
work better in pressure.
Yeah, that's right. Increased performance under pressure.
Yeah.
That's that.
Actually,
Yeah.
so, like, would you recommend Admit Scholar to others? Why or why not?
100%. That's a no-brainer question for me. I think anyone who's trying to target MIM programs, MBA programs, or any kind of specialized programs for that matter, I think Admit Scholar has those experts, and Sahil himself is, extremely apt with the communications in general. Anyone who's wanting to get into these programs, maybe in 2026, 2027, or later, please don't hesitate to reach out to Sahil or any other of his team members and expect the best and hope for the best and aim for the best. And I'm sure Admit Scholar can help you get there.
That's great. So, like, the last question, do you have any tips or words of encouragement for future applicants?
I think words of encouragement would be something that I, personally think about. And I mentioned previously, be perpetually optimistic about how things are going to turn out. Be realistic, obviously, but there also needs to be that Delulu angle in your, personality where you try and overpower all of your anxiety, questions about yourself, and self doubt with optimism. So hold your horses, believe in the process, and just keep working towards it. I'm sure if you ever dreamt of an European business school or a master's abroad in a top university, I think you have the right mindset. I think you need to get in touch with someone like Sahil and get things rolling.
A very insightful lessons for them. So that was
Yes.
all. Thank you, Adarsh, for being here, and it was a nice time talking to you.
Thanks a lot, Harshita.